What's up guys, Hades here. I want to talk about some of the top matches from this week in IB League. This was the final week before playoffs. This is kind of that final ranking, who goes where. And I just want to watch one of these matches. There was a 205 Civil War battle. This one's pretty good. There was 8 Vex and Buns. There was IMPK PRD. Quite a few good ones. I'll probably review the PRD IMPK match, and it was pretty cool. We're mainly going to highlight the start of the game. There's a lot to talk about at the start. Who does what better and why. And you can see here in the top tower right away, very sloppy, very slow. Both teams actually have 37, which makes it a very balanced match. Unless this isn't loading right, there's just too much space on both sides. I'll come back to that in a moment. This is a little bit better, but still kind of sloppy. I really don't like these like risky spots down here. And then all this important real estate next to the tower is just completely missing, which is just awkward. So I don't like that. And of course in the white here we have first, in the red we have lions. So let's go down to 4x and see what happens towards the start here. Lions have a very clean setup in the middle, while first does not get quite enough. Oh no, there we go, it's loading in. A little sloppy, too much gaps. I don't like the spacing here. All these players should be down 1. And it was just lagging top, but again, really bad spacing. If they want to compete at a high level, they're gonna need to fix these spacing. There's all these gaps here, a missing player here, gaps here. It's very awkward, and I can already tell. I've talked about this in a previous video. If you watch my channel at all, you'll see battle line has been drawn here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 players with lions touching, and they're all connected. And there's only 1, 2, 3 of first, and there's this big gap here. There's this big gap here, and there's this big gap here. So they don't actually have a lot of help behind them, where there's the lions players all have adjacent attached players. So just from this location, I already know lions is gonna win. And that's just from experience. I know power levels, I know the players are very strong, but even if they weren't, this is going to be a win almost all the time, because you see that this player is getting focused, but he has 3 people around him, like directly attached to him, while they're fighting this guy, and he only has 1 person directly attached to him. So this player can help, but he's going to be a little slower, and that slowness means less time in the tower, less time in here, and then you can see Lions goes for an all-in. And how are they going to stop it? They have characters, they have players way back here, way back here, way back here. You can already see that this tower over time is just going to be taken by lions. I'll come back to this in a little bit, as there are more than 1 tower. Same thing here, really, really good. 5 touching. Also well done by first to be around the edge, but they're just getting blasted a little bit faster. They also don't have the numbers at the center. Which makes it a little bit difficult. And again, not quite the reinforcements. There's these missing gaps in the back. So I would also assume that this is going to be won by lions, and we'll check on that in a little bit. Now, the bottom is a little bit different. It's looking slightly better up, unless that one doesn't make it. We have 10 versus 11. So first actually had numbers advantage here, but they don't really have tower advantage. What I want to see here in these kind of positions, I'm going to pause the game again. This is really important to learn. If you didn't know this, if you're in the back, it kind of depends on your HP, but you need to move up into these key locations and fill in this gap, because this is a gap touching the tower, and all of these players have immediate access to it. And as you can see here, first only has 3 players touching, and lion has 4. So even though first has more players, their position is so bad and this player down here is also very far away. So I would want to see one of these players moving into this, and one of the other players, either this one or this one, moving up into here. And that would just create so much pressure. And you can actually do 2 stack here, because these players are technically in the 1, 2, 3, right? This is line 1, line 2, and line 3. But if they're here, they're 1 and 2. So they go from 3rd row to 1st and 2nd row, which is just very important. And then they can apply more pressure on the 2 key targets in the battle line. So again, Lions, we already know they won, but looking at the breakdown of each tower, it makes so much more sense why they won when you can start to see all the small details that matter within a match. Let's look at home defense. 3 for home here, 4 for home here. It is important to hold your home, but if you're on a losing like warpath, like you need to notice you're losing and like skimp. You have to skimp. You need to send 1 or 2 of these guys somewhere where you can win, because central tower is now taken. Top is surprisingly not taken, but they're pushing forward. You can see they've pushed up into this area here, and they're pushing forward and forward, and they're gonna eventually get that tower. Still no tower here. So this is the reason I wanted to watch. Is it was a good match. It was a friendly match against each other. You can call it a civil war if you want. Not a fan of these really back locations. Like, you don't need to be this far away. You can be here, right? If someone steps on you here, you just go again. Like, there's no reason to be this far back. You might as well not be there. There's so little you can do from that far away. This is fine distance, you know, maybe 3 castles, but this is like 8 castles. This is too much. Same here. Just a little too far, and I see small mistakes like this really adding up. Talk about Moon and Sun Altar a little bit. I never talk about these. I'm of the opinion that they're terrible. I personally never go here. I tell people on my squad to never go here. Do they always listen? No. But in this format, it's too fast. The rotations can be better. You don't have to do it invisibly. It just doesn't make sense in a lot of situations. Lions is now taken top. They own middle and they own their home. There is a small counter attack here. You can see the Moon Altar and someone from middle. And then again, this like massively far behind. This is just too far. Not a big fan of these like really long moves. But you know, it is kind of working. The problem with these moves, and I've talked about this a lot, and I'm gonna repeat myself because it doesn't seem to get through people's heads. If you're going to make an enemy home attack, it needs to be legitimate. Like, you can't just half go, because anyone who dies online is right here, and they're like 30 seconds away. They're so far away. They're almost as far away as these people relocating back here. So if you're gonna do this, you need to do it, and you need to hold it, and it needs to really create so much pressure that there's going to be an over rotation from the other enemy team. But I'm not seeing that here. First actually does win this bottom tower, which is impressive. I did not think they would be able to, but what happens is they actually got the numbers, and we can see here, and I'm going to break this down one more time because the situation has changed dramatically. Now First has put themselves in the aggressive position. They're in front of the tower, just as I said. They finally pushed up, and look how many players they now have around the tower, and they're swarming on the enemy side. This player is key. They're not going to last long, but if either of these Lion players, either here or here or here, try and go for tower, there's a direct counterattack possibility. And this weakens the position dramatically, and these kind of relocations have to be blocked. It's a huge mistake not to block them, and this is a huge reason why First now owns this tower, and they're making it close. They're still losing, but they're making it close, and the reason they're losing is they just have no pressure in the middle. But Lions is getting spread thin, and this is a position where I would like to see them rotate. They have so many people in the base, which also tells me either their builds were not as good this week or their players aren't as good. But Lions completely exposed the center, and I would like to see every single person on the middle or in a losing position just rotating the middle. Like, why wouldn't you just go to middle? It's more valuable to home, and it's defended by one person, maybe two, unless there's some sort of lag, but I only see two because there's this big overcommitment back to the home, which I kind of like this play. If there was a support to come take it, you can't have this many players without owning the tower. If you don't own the tower, it becomes a wasted play and just a bad play. And like I said, anyone who died was just going to come back and stop this. And no one from first is going to be able to come back here and reinforce because it's across the map, right? This is the furthest distance you can go from your top right corner to the bottom left corner. So this has to work for a significant amount of time, or it's just not worth it. They do have a support here. Let's see if their coordination is good enough to take it. And no, they got denied right at the end. Very good job by the Lions players, just denying it over and over and over, delaying the points that they could be accumulating. They've already gained a 20,000 lead, which is very massive, mostly because they had top corner and they've now overwhelmed on this bottom corner. But yeah, that's gonna be about it for this one. First played pretty decent. They really need to work on a few things. That first thing is relocations at the start, making sure there's not so many gaps and you have proper second rows. Second is allocating the right amount of people to each side so that you're neutral. At least they were outnumbered in 2 positions. And then having up to meta builds. It's the end of the season. You should have played at least 1 or 2 good teams and adapted a build to compete at the highest level. But yeah, playoffs are on the way. Builds are going to change. Immortals change. I cannot wait for the next set of matches. If you guys want me to keep updating you and live commentary on those matches, let me know in the comments below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.